something and they didn't update their code probably.
Hello, darlings. Hello, everyone. We're here finally an hour later, which I completely apologize for. My day turned into a my day. It would really help if I would have muted my YouTube so that I wouldn't hear myself talking over myself. That would have been impeccable. So, like I was trying to say, my day turned into a freaking shit show. So we had to postpone the stream and start an hour late. So thank you guys for putting up with me and being here despite the change. Once again, we do not have a toolbox that's working. So we'll go through the introductions so that you know who you're talking to. You know me because you're on my channel, so I'll just jump straight to CJ.
All right. I'm CJ Boyer, and I'm a writer of fantasy fiction. That's it.
Her channel,
sorry, God.
He has a writing and music channel
I
on
do.
YouTube. Her channel is linked in the description down below. She's currently writing a Baba Yaga story, and she's all around awesome. So now let's move on to Sky.
Oh, it's my turn? I'm Sky Haggis. I write urban fantasy and contemporary romance, both under pen names. I'm a mom, and my kid tries to come into videos often. Hi. So, on my channel, I do things about books and writing. So, yeah.
The usual. Trinda, jump right in, darling.
I am Trinda E. Adair, as most places on the internet have me. I am a post-apocalyptic writer and paranormal urban fantasy writer, among many other things. And I have a YouTube channel and basically every other social media thing most of the time. I feel like I have so many things. It's just like, I'm just everywhere.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Before we get into today's topic, I would like to remind everyone that the AuthorTube book. What the hell?
Readathon? AuthorTube
Readathon?
We're almost there.
The AuthorTube Readathon just kicked off today. It's the first day, the first challenge on Instagram for today is the Claire Kauter challenge, which is books and bath bombs. I've just posted mine. Claire had posted hers earlier because she's cool like that. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me today, people? Like, seriously, what is wrong with me today?
Your mouth and your brain can't agree.
Yep. And if you would like to join us in the readathon, please do. You can still do it. Everything is on my channel. Just search for the video. It's there, I promise. I will leave a link in the description down below when the stream is over, because I'm clearly super prepared right now. Perfectly prepared. So, yeah, let's get started. Today's topic is how do we manage to write ourselves out of a corner? Because writing ourselves into a corner is pretty easy to achieve. We've all been there. So let's just start going around and talking about how it felt the first time when we found ourselves into a corner and it seemed like there was no way out. So I'll go last, like a nice little host. So CJ?
So we're talking about how we've done it and then how we got out of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was your first experience getting completely stuck?
I don't know about my first experience because I do it so often. It's hard. They start to blend together.
Well, the first one you remember?
I would say probably one of the first times I ever wrote for NaNoWriMo. I mean, like, I've been writing for always since I could write. But I think it was the first year I did NaNoWriMo. Sarah was like, we should do this. And I was like, okay. But I'd never been on that kind of a, like, you have to write this many words in this amount of time. And my brain couldn't catch up with my fingers. And I think for like 3 or 4 days, I don't even remember what the characters were doing, but I remember I was so frustrated with them because it was a romance, I want to say. And the two main characters were not romantically compatible.
Oh, great.
And I really wanted these two characters to get together, and I tried everything, and they just would not get together. They were not at all. They were really they formed this like sibling relationship, and I'm like, that's not right. And it was more a matter of I had to realize that there was another character that I had thought was just a side character, like a BFF kind of character. It was a sidekick. The character wasn't really important in my head, but it turned out that was the romantic interest. And
makes sense.
But it took me like 3 or 4 days, and in NaNoWriMo, that's like years.
Yes,
worth of time.
definitely.
So, yeah.
Okay, Sky.
Okay, well, since I write fantasy and romance, I have had similar situations as CJ where I've had couples that don't want to get together. But a lot of time with my fantasy, it's more because I haven't done enough world building before I start writing. And the times I've gotten stuck, I've wanted things to happen that I was like, okay, but this doesn't go by the structure of the world that I have built already. How can I make them match up? And having to work around all of that in order to make everything work well together doesn't always work the way you want it to.
Quite true.
So,
Trinda?
I like how CJ mentioned NaNoWriMo because I feel like that's usually the only time when I write myself into a corner is when I don't have time to think things through very well, I guess. And then just end up going more for quantity over quality in those situations, and you just kind of blunder around until you figure out where you're supposed to go.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. And speaking of romantic interests and stuff like that, I had a similar sort of an experience. I mean, I didn't initially write myself into a corner. The story just didn't want to go where I wanted it, and by book 2, I think my protagonist was on the 3rd love interest. And with the first 2, it was kind of a brutal, and then by book 3, some of them pop back in. It's weird, but the actual first corner I encountered was hi Sarah, nice to see you in the chat. The first time it was when I had this character that I needed to kill off. The only way it worked was to just kill him off. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. So I spent like 3 months trying to write myself around that character death. 3 freaking months. And all the things I tried to do, they just didn't work at all. And eventually I killed the character.
Sometimes you just gotta kill people, though.
Yeah.
R.I.P. character.
Yep. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and then you just gotta do it. Kill your darlings.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't exactly a darling.
Makes it even easier then.
No, actually, you'd think, but it made it harder because he was my favorite despite everything, and I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone in that. I'm in. Maybe I shouldn't mention what series this is in because I'm pretty sure once this is released, I will have like mobs of people come after me. I'm pretty sure of that. The character is that popular, and I did really try to write him as a baddie, but he somehow redeemed himself. sort of.
I hate it when that happens.
And then I killed him. I cried by doing that, but yeah, that was the first corner I encountered, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible because 3 months is a world of time when you're trying to get a draft done. So by the way, this was like 2 years ago, and I still haven't completed that manuscript.
You gotta finish that thing.
I plan on it, honestly. But yeah.
You haven't finished it because you had to kill that character, and you're like, no, I don't want to kill it.
Pretty much, yeah. But the thing is that I went past that and wrote something after that, and I still didn't finish it, which is absolutely brilliant. So, what's your
to the life of a writer?
Yeah. What's your go-to method when you're stuck? What's the first thing you try to just get unstuck? And let's just jump however we want.
I do a lot of free writing. Yeah, free writing.
I always find that just like dumping what's in your brain is, I don't know, that works so well for me when I get stuck on those kind of things. Gets all the gunk out. Flush the pipes.
Yeah. I'll open a brand new document and just write, because it doesn't have to stay. I might use none of it. I might use all of it, and I just, because I put it in a brand new a different document, I can pick and choose what I want to keep in the end. But yeah, same thing.
I tried that. It didn't particularly work for me. Because I mean, it usually does work. Just write something else. It's fine. But with that one time, it just didn't work because my mind was still trying to find ways to keep that stupid character alive, which was distressing. So what I went to after that was brainstorming, and I chose a pretty ruthless author friend for that, and I was trying to tell her how I could keep this character alive and how he could play a role, and she was like, that's crueler than actually killing him, right? I was like, fuck it, yes.
Make him suffer.
So, CJ, what do you do?
I cry.
Well, after that, because I cried too. I didn't want to kill my character.
It depends on the situation. Sometimes it's just a matter of having to walk away and not look at it, and then come back and read it again. Go back and reprocess, give it fresh eyes. Also, it does help to have, you were talking about going to a pretty brutal author friend. I'm pretty fortunate I have Sarah, and because Sarah's mind works so differently from mine. I can go to her and be like, I don't know what to do. Here's the situation. And she can give me 5 or 6 options, and I can be like, oh, that one works.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Also, I assume she can be brutal when she needs to and kill off your characters.
Yes, she can. She's I don't think about it as brutal. I think about it as she's incredibly realistic in her expectations of what writing ought to be. She doesn't as difficult as she finds her own writing, and I know we all do.
Yeah,
she
obviously.
Can read somebody else's with a very clear idea of what should happen, of how it should. Yeah.
That's always awesome.
Yeah.
But
so it's nice to have that.
Yeah, it's pretty much why I go for brainstorming, and why I encourage my author friends to ask me if they want to do a brainstorming session, because I feel the moment you're discussing someone else's writing and someone else's story situation, it's easier to spot things and come up with ideas and suggestions, because when it's your own thing, you're kind of so caught up in it and how you planned on doing it that you can't really see a way out of the corner you painted yourself into.
That's kind of like having blinders on, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
so focused on fixing that one problem that you're just blinded to what other solutions could be around you, kind of thing. Like,
Yep.
when you wanted to save this character, you weren't even considering the idea that he could potentially die. At that point.
No,
You're just like,
I
no,
mean,
it's
I
not even
was,
an
but I
option.
didn't want to do it. Like, it's like, it was like that line from Friends. I wish I could, but I really don't want to. Like that Phoebe phrase exactly described my situation right then and there, because it wasn't that I couldn't kill the character, it's that I really didn't want to. And then it became even harder to consider that option, although, you know, I came up with it initially. I just didn't want him dead.
You hadn't expected to like him at that point.
Oh no, I
when you were
liked him
first
from the
planning his
start.
death.
I mean, kind of.
Oh, you liked him from the start.
No, he had his motives, which I could kind of understand. So throughout the first book, he was the baddie. In the second book, although he was the baddie, I had already started to have a soft spot for him. And he was I mean, at that point, he was so beyond having anything to lose that he was extremely, extremely honest in a sarcastic, joking way. And he called out the protagonist on some stuff. So I started loving him a lot. And by book 3, he was like the protagonist's best friend. So yeah, it was kind of hard to, you know, have him murdered, because it was brutal. It wasn't like, oh, he went away peacefully in his sleep. No, it was brutal.
Well, isn't that the best time to do that, though? Because then you've got more bang for your buck.
Yeah, get everyone invested.
Yeah.
And murder the character. I should say that for Angel's Feather, I got a lot of crap my way, because one of the characters kind of turns psycho, and the problem with that is not that he turns dark, is that I made people like him and relate to him first. And
then he turned dark.
Yeah, and then no, that's
I
a
love that
no.
so much. I can't wait. I'm reading
Yeah,
Angel's
me too.
Feather for one of my readathon books, so
Oh
don't
my God.
spoil it. I'm so excited.
I'm not saying anything. I mean, from a point on, it becomes kind of apparent that somebody's going downhill fast, but yeah.
I'm excited to get attached to someone who will be dead in the near future.
No, that's not the way it goes at all. None of the main characters dies, because this is still romance, so they have to survive and be happy in the end. Sort of. Kind of.
Sort of.
So the major characters won't die, but there's a lot of dying involved anyway, because, you know, it's a post-apocalyptic world where humans are terrible and can't learn to save their lives. So
there you go.
It won't be all. It won't be all flowers and unicorns and whatever. By the way,
rainbows.
By the way, this morning at 5 a.m. I started Revival Prologue, and I was like, oh, it starts with the apocalypse. Great. I will have such nice dreams after this. And here I was thinking, no, I'm not reading Feral before bed, because that's horror. And I'm like, oh, apocalypse. Thank you, Trinda. Thank you.
Yep. Post-apocalyptic. Lots of horror stuff in that one too, on occasion. So you've been warned. Like my dark fantasy, I can't help it. If there's not death, then what's the point?
Yeah, makes sense. I like that about. I know it's off topic, but I prefer dark fantasy when it's dark, because there's death and decay and whatever, and less so when the dark part involves the main character being brutally tortured and beaten and subjected to a lot of stuff.
Yes.
That kind of pisses me off. When that's all the darkness there is.
Yeah, it doesn't feel genuine at that point. It just feels like it's been sprinkled in there for dramatic effect more than anything.
Especially
just
if,
to make it seem dark, yeah.
Yeah, especially if the main character is tortured for like 75% of the book. And of the remaining 25%, 15% is introduction before shit goes downhill. So
yeah, that'd be a weird book to read.
Yeah,
it'd be like James Bond, sort of, in my mind.
Not really. No, James Bond is really tame for that compared to that.
Yeah. Well, it's more like action.
And yeah, it was action packed. And the thing that annoyed me was that the world was pretty freaking interesting. Mm-hmm. And I wish there was more than just, this girl getting tortured and beaten and,
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with that kind of stuff is you're so focused on that. It's like that Blinders thing all over again. It's just torture. And at one point you kind of get desensitized to it and it's like, all right, where's the rest of the story?
Yeah, because I think that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the book too. Because there's a scene in one of the Red Rising books when the main character is tortured brutally. It's really bad. Nothing even compares to it in what dark fantasy I've read. Yet this is just a fraction of the book. And it's so focused on the mental impact it has on him that it works. It works really, really well. And when I was reading that, I was like going like, Pierce Brown, if you haven't seen Berserk, I'm going to go like, I don't know.
Berserk?
Do something really Berserk. No, because going Berserk is just a run-of-the-mill thing. I mean, I would bet actual money on it. Because anyone here read the manga or saw the anime?
Mm-mm. I've heard lots about it, but
yeah, well, one of the main characters is tortured in a pretty similar way to the main character in Red Rising. Of course, it's a different outcome for the character. One goes ridiculously dark, the other one recovers, and I won't say which it is because I'm an awful person, but yeah, I was reading through it and I was like definitely inspired from there, definitely, like I it's too big of a coincidence, just too big. At least some inspiration from there. I mean, so yeah, I'm totally on board with that, but if that's the only thing that makes your book dark, you're probably going to lose me.
Yeah.
So now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Do you guys find that the more you outline, the less likely you are to be caught in a situation that you can't write yourself out of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yes. There's instances where I'm not, but most of the time, yeah.
Fun, and for me, there's a risk that my outline is going to go horribly wrong. Like, I've got this outline, I'm like, yes, I'm following the outline, and then something happens that wasn't in the outline. Something occurs, and one of two things happens. Either I really like the change, but I have no way to work it into the outline. Like, sometimes there are things that happen, you're like, oh, I didn't expect that, but it works, because it's part of the outline now, and it explains this, and it explains that, and it takes care of this. But every once in a while, and it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while, something happens that completely changes. Either it changes a character and my perspective of the character, or my understanding of the character changes completely, or it, like in the case of the romance, something that I was absolutely certain was going to happen never actually occurred. Like this event never occurred, and so I had all these plans, but because the character themselves never got to that point, there was no way to follow along the outline. So, but if I really think through the outline, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. The thing is that I find it's not just the outline. I mean, the outline helps a lot, because the moment I start outlining, I don't do it like in super great detail, but I go chapter by chapter and have a few lines for each chapter. The moment I do that, I kind of figure out if there's something that I'm going to get stuck in, and then I kind of eliminate that during the plotting phase. But the thing is that if I don't have a good grasp on my characters, if I don't know what their motivations are, what drives them, what annoys them, what they would never do, it's easier to just get stuck despite the plot. Like, I can plot the hell out of a story if my plot requires an introvert character to act like an extrovert, then yeah, it's not going to work pretty well, no matter how clever it really is.
Yeah, I think it's easy to write yourself into a corner if you're kind of forcing something. Like if you're going against what you think a character would act like, it's really easy to find yourself slipping into somewhere where you can't get out of because you shouldn't be there in the first place, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't write super detailed outlines. It's more like point form, like this happens here, kind of like place markers, but then the rest is kind of like, well, we'll see what happens when we get there. And I agree with you a lot where it depends heavily on the characters, because that's usually what I rely more on is my character sheets than my outline, because at the end of the day, the whole story is based off what choices your characters make. So
yeah, true.
Knowing them inside and out is going to help you fill in the blanks between those little plot points that you set out to kind of act as guidelines. And that I find helps a huge amount when it comes to avoiding corners, I guess.
Yeah, true. Because it's like CJ was saying a while back that she couldn't get behind what her characters were doing, but realized they were acting like that because she'd given them a certain personality. And I guess that's something I learned, that I couldn't force my characters to react in a certain way when they were not built like that. Like I just couldn't do it. Like if I try to force them, I'd get stuck.
Well, and I think I've been thinking about this a lot, of kind of letting your characters be shitty people. I guess it's the best way to put that. Because you want your characters to be like good and relatable and, you know, a just person.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's okay if you don't agree with their viewpoints, because that kind of makes you think, and it'll most likely make your readers think as well. So I think it's okay to not necessarily agree with what your character's goals are and stuff, and kind of let them do shitty things if it means that your plot isn't gonna slow down or kind of get cumbersome with you forcing things in a certain direction to make characters seem a certain way.
Yeah, pretty much.
These days, that's actually when I find myself getting stuck into a corner. I is when I'm trying to, like, when I outline, I just outline like the major events that I want to happen, and make up stuff as I go based on the decisions of the characters. And sometimes that means that an event I wanted to happen will no longer work because of those decisions. And I find myself getting stuck in a corner when I'm trying to force them to hit that event point.
Yeah.
and that event point just no longer works at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true, but I find that if I try to outline based on a sort of an emotional arc for the character and just dot it with action markers, then it will work slightly better. But again, it depends on the character. If it's characters I'm already well accustomed to and I've spent a lot of time with them, like when I was writing Lead to Follow, Ganzori was a character that was pretty important in the first book, where he wasn't the protagonist. So when I started writing him in the second book, I already had a lot of background and I knew him well and things like that. And it was easier to just adjust the plot and his emotional arc to kind of work together. But when it's a new character, sometimes things I thought would happen never happen in the end, because there's no point for that happening anyway. But I drop it pretty fast. Because I mean, that happened in my latest book, in Gaming and IRL Boss Fights. I had this scene in mind that was going to happen, with the protagonist filming a certain video and saying certain things, but that was never needed in the end. He'd already expressed his feelings on it. And writing that scene, which when I plotted seemed paramount, was like worthless. It was just retelling it all again, because I'd already given his reaction, so there was no point in doing that. I mean, I guess you do need to repeat some stuff, but some are just there for like filler. And when I was considering that scene, I was actually thinking of my editor and going, she's going to mark all this scene if I write it and tell me this just retells things you've already made the reader quite aware of. I delete.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I could write like 3 paragraphs on this just to have them deleted because they're really useless. I'm just not going to do it. It's fine. Do you ever find yourself caught in something that doesn't work? Not necessarily when you write it, but then when you read through it, you're like, this is kind of out of nowhere, because you know your character so well that you kind of forget to give some details.
Yeah, I have definitely done that.
Yeah. I've definitely written something where I didn't think it would work and it didn't match the original idea at all. But when you go back and read through it, you're like, hey, this is actually more like what they would do anyway. Let's go with this.
Yeah. I have that happen a lot after NaNoWriMo, because you write things so quickly and then you set it aside a lot of the time for like a month or two, and then it's like, oh, hey, this is not how any of these people would act. Oh, weird. And then it's like, oh, wait, that's way better than I remember. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, that actually happens quite a bit.
But I think that definitely goes to like remembering that you can always fix things later with editing. Like it doesn't have to be 100% perfect until you're about to publish, really.
Right.
And I used to get stuck on things like, oh my God, I wrote something here in a way, and I'm like acutely aware that before this, like 2 chapters before, I wrote it differently. And I used to get stuck and go back and think of how to rewrite and whatever. And now I'm just like, oh, I'll fix it in editing.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to just write it and then go back through and fix it later.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is like I'll write the same scene out different ways and then choose which way works best. Oh,
that's cool. I never do that. I never thought of that, but that sounds like a good idea for a scene that's tricky.
It can get confusing in the end when, especially like when I first started doing that, I wasn't doing it in like different documents. or putting any kind of separators. I was just like writing the scene again, and writing the scene again, all in the same document. So it can get confusing because you're like, wait a minute, this is what?
I feel like I've read the same thing a few times. What's going on here?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, you should have some markers in there.
When I first started doing it, I was not that smart, okay?
Oh God, I just realized I did something stupid.
Uh-oh.
I'll have to email my editor. So the thing is, when I export documents from Scrivener to Word, it doesn't keep my italics. I don't know why.
Uh-oh.
Really?
Yeah.
There should be a setting you can change.
Probably. But instead of getting bothered with that, I just used some markers. I just used some random characters to mark italics. And because I was so tired this morning, I forgot to change that to italics and send it like that. And I have to tell my editor now, send her a message and say, by the way, if you see some text like this, that means italics.
She's going through this document being like, what are all... Alina, are you having a stroke while writing this?
She must have been really tired when she was writing this scene, because I'm pretty certain there's supposed to be some kind of marks here. There's not.
The thing is, like, I think she remembers the whole conversation we had about there not being italics where they should have been. But just to be on the safe side, I should send her a message. And this case is what happens when you work on stuff after you've slept for like barely 4 hours.
Yeah, sleep is important.
Yep.
Didn't we have this conversation on our last week's check about wellness, health, and writing and all that stuff? Didn't we talk about sleep being important?
Yeah,
we talked about that.
I mean, this was a special occasion. I've been way better with sleep, but right now I pretty much had no choice because I finally pulled myself out of the lethargic part of my depression. And I talked to my editor and asked her about her schedule. And she was like, if you can get this to me by Saturday morning, you might have it on time for your planned release date. So I kind of had to push myself a bit. But just FYI, after the stream is over, I'm going to feed the dog, take him out for like 5 minutes. And then I'm getting in bed with my books and doing nothing more than that.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be doing this weekend.
So, yeah, and tomorrow
Reading
morning...
sounds like a plan.
Yeah, tomorrow morning I have my stream with Claire, and then I will do a bit of work, but for most of the afternoon, it will once again be just lazing around and reading. And then I have my weekend, Monday and Tuesday.
Hey.
I want to join your live stream with Claire, and then I got the notification from YouTube about it, and it's like 3 a.m. for me, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll join that one. Like, I could do what Alina does for Sarah's channel, sleep for a couple hours, set an alarm, get up for the live stream, and then go back to bed. But I'm like, it's gonna be 3 a.m. for me. How cognitive am I actually going to be?
I would not recommend that to other people. I really would not.
I do that all the time I do it all the time because of the hours I work at work, and then I put the kids on the bus. I'll sleep for 3 hours, get up, put the kids on the bus, then go back to bed for sleep another 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already doing that during the week. It won't hurt me to do it during the weekend. It's just that, like, do I want to do that?
No.
Yeah, no.
You need sleep. Everybody needs sleep.
Just an FYI, I do not have a family to worry about on weekends. I mean, I have my boyfriend, but it's not a kid, so...
he can take care of himself.
So, yeah, if I had kids, I wouldn't do that to myself. I just wouldn't, like... I move somewhere closer to Sarah, maybe, so that I wouldn't have to wake up at 3 a.m. But...
Yeah.
That I do. I just moved to the UK because then it would be like 1 a.m. So it's kind of manageable.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
Yeah,
There you go.
It's only 6 hours. That's not bad.
Yeah. or just move further east so that it's like the next day for me.
Oh,
Same
there you
hour
go.
next day.
There you go.
It's nice that there are multiple options there.
Yeah. The only problem is I don't particularly want to leave Romania as a home base, but if I get my wish and get to travel to avoid A, winter, and B, extreme heat, then it's manageable. I totally go to Southeast Asia for winter. Like
Southeast Asia.
That'd be cool.
My parents have talked about when they retire moving to the Philippines.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be cool.
There's a school there that my mom they've talked about. We could go and teach at this school. And I was like, I'm okay with that. I would come visit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some island hopping in the Philippines. Yeah. I should send you some links to some blog posts on my travel blog.
Yes.
I had some input from another friend who's from the Philippines, and yeah, they're awesome. Like the best thing about it is that you can take your dog to the mall.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and they have like color codes for shops, and in some shops you can go with the dog. If not, you can just stroll around and just leave your partner with the dog on the hallway, and you can go inside and shop. And there are like places for the doggies to play, and you can take them to restaurants and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're super dog friendly.
I wish we were more dog friendly in North America.
You're pretty much dog friendly compared to Romania. You're pretty dog friendly, trust me.
Canada's not bad, but you still can't. There's certain places where certain dogs aren't allowed. And stuff like that. It's weird.
Most hotels here don't allow dogs. The few that don't allow big dogs. And I remember like 2 years ago, we went to a hotel and spent a weekend there with some friends. And this hotel was like in the middle of nowhere. There were like fields and forests and mountains around it. So it would be perfect for pet owners to go there. Guess what? They didn't allow dogs.
Wow.
I don't know what our hotels are like, but you can't bring most apartment buildings don't let you have pets, like animals, like cats and dogs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine the hotels are kind of same.
And even those that do probably have breed restrictions. I know there's more.
Yeah, and you gotta pay deposits and stuff.
Yeah, there's more pet-friendly hotels here than there are apartments. But even there's certain breeds they don't allow, which made it harder for my parents when they were moving. They had to stay in a hotel for a couple weeks while they were finishing up closing the house because things were weird with their old house. And at the time they had 6 dogs, and 2 of them were pit bulls.
Oh yeah.
And
we have
finding
issues
a place
with pit bulls here.
Yeah, finding a place where they could keep the pit bulls. They're the friendliest dogs on earth. They're friendlier than most of the small dogs I've ever met. But because of the breed restrictions, they had difficulty finding a place to stay.
Yeah.
For 2 months.
Bothers me so much. Pit bulls are like, I've never met a mean pit bull.
No.
It's like, it's not the dog's fault.
I have, but it's usually the owner's fault.
Yeah, like, you could say that about any dog breed. Like, it's not fair.
It's the meanest dogs I've come across have honestly been Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas have been the meanest dogs I've come across.
Yes, it is nasty.
Sarah's brother has a couple of, I think he's got at least 2. I don't know if Renfield is he's a big dog, but he has 3 big dogs, and they are all big babies. Like, they think they're lap dogs. They're not.
My pit bull.
Not vicious at all.
One of the pit bulls that my parents had is technically mine, but because I can't have pets, they keep them for me, and they're only 5 minutes down the road. But he is the biggest baby. Like, he still runs from my girls, because I don't know if it's because he's huge and he knows he's huge and he thinks he's gonna hurt them, but he runs with his tail between his legs and just cowers. He is such a big baby.
Oh, I love animals. They're so sweet. Except for when
I
they're
do
little
too.
monsters.
Except for
Except when
what?
they're stealing cereal.
When they're little monsters.
Oh yeah. Which is like 5 times a day, right?
Yeah, well,
At least.
that might be generous.
Cats have more.
How about 10 times?
Okay.
50, maybe.
20. Let's call it even.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Shit disturbers.
Oh God. I mean, you can tell that people have had pets the moment they start talking about what little monsters they can be. Like that's the moment when you know they haven't just watched cute videos on the internet. They've actually owned the bastard. Because mine now is like super nice and sleeps there in the corner. But the moment I try to film something, like the moment I turn the camera on, he starts padding around and you can hear him on the audio. You've been sleeping up to this point. Like, seriously, you want to sleep. And now that I'm doing something, yeah. And he has this like knack for sleeping in the deepest, undisturbable way when I'm the busiest. Like when I'm going insane with how much work I have to do, that's when he's like dead asleep. Like dead to the world. Doesn't care. He's just sleeping and he's all relaxed and I'm like, I hate you right now. but then I look at him and I'm like, at least you're not bothering me. It's fine.
Silver linings, man. Silver linings.
Yep. I
My
mean,
cat she can be really passive aggressive.
oh God.
She like, if she's mad at me, she will tear up paper. Like,
Oh
and
yeah,
it
you
used
showed
to
us
be-
once.
Yeah,
Oh, I remember
it
you
used
telling
to
us
be
once.
like now because I have more space. It's usually something that's like I've dropped on the floor and it's not really that important, or like a piece that needs to go into the recycle bin. The recycle bin's all the way in the kitchen and that's so far to go, so I don't. It just sits on the floor, and she'll tear that up. But when I lived with my friend, I lived in her basement, and I had basically like 3 rooms. I had my bedroom. I had like this long room that was sort of a living room catch-all area, and then I had a bathroom. And because it wasn't heated, especially during the winter, like everything was in my room. My office was in my bedroom, and I had a big bedroom, so it wasn't a problem. But I would have stacks of stuff on the floor because I didn't have enough room to store everything, or I hadn't filed stuff. And she always picked the one thing on the floor that was important, a bill or a like a receipt or something that I needed to keep. And she would just tear the bits off and tear it to bits. And I'd be like, why? What did I do to deserve this?
You've been a bad girl.
Oh, I don't know. I think she's just mean sometimes. She just gets into a mood. But the other thing is,
no, it's your fault.
Cheese.
It's always your fault.
It's always my fault. Always my fault. The other thing is cheese. If you have cheese, she like tries to eat your face. Like you have no personal space. And the only reason anymore that I can like escape that is because she's too old and too fat to like climb up onto me if I'm sitting on a higher chair. Like she's too old and too fat, so she can't like get in my face. But like my sister will be sitting on the couch and eating a cheese stick, and Tag will come and like get like here. She's like, give me some, because she loves cheese.
Wow.
Yep.
Mine will just like come like in your face and look at you with those puppy eyes and eventually start drooling like an asshole. And he always acts like he's on the brink of starvation. No joke. Like of course he doesn't like if I just place his kibble in his dish, it's not interesting. But that usually comes with a bit of yogurt or some wet food that has a lot of meat in it. So he's really spoiled. And then when we make hard-boiled eggs, because that's pretty much what I eat for breakfast, because I need like high-protein breakfast, and I go with eggs and then some sort of meat. We boil 5 eggs. One's for him, one's for my mom, and 3 are for me. Because I don't eat any sort of carbs with them, so I need to fill up. He devours his boiled egg in like 2 seconds, and then he acts like he hasn't eaten anything all morning. The egg is a snack, mind you. So then he will just follow me around until I give him a few pieces of my own eggs, and whatever else I'm eating, because he's starving and he needs to load up on food in case of a famine that he never experienced. But yeah, that's he's ridiculous like that. And I did mention that he still eats carrots and like celery root and apples, and he likes walnuts just whole so that he can crack them after he's busy, he's tired of playing with them, and then pick his like inside walnut and eat it. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, if you can play with your food, why not do it, right?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes absolutely perfect sense. And yeah, he's ridiculous. Like seriously, he's a ridiculous dog. But that's what makes it so fun, because when you're down and upset and your characters won't listen to you, who cares? Because the dog comes and amuses you, and then you feel better all of a sudden. So yeah, it helps. Besides, he inspired my entire werewolf universe. So, oh yeah, let's talk about that. What's the strangest thing that inspired a book for you? Because for me, it was me wanting my dog to listen to me.
I mean, that's a good reason.
I mean, honestly, when he was smaller and I didn't know how to properly train him, and I was struggling so much, I managed to in the end, but I was like, oh my God, I swear to God, if I turned into a werewolf, he'd be like so nice. So nice.
Actually listen to you because you'd be the pack leader.
No, it's because I'd be a predator, like,
or that.
I'd be like 10 times his size. Well, what I didn't know at the time was that my dog is insane, because he went to this like training facility, and the trainer told me, like, do you know what I did? I took my most aggressive bitch and tied her up somewhere, and then let him do whatever he wanted to do, just to see how the dog reacts. And he was like, I've never in my life seen such an insane dog with such a great death wish, because he just ran to that dog. Was clearly aggressive, and he was so happy to see her that the dog was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to sit here and stare at you because you're a mad puppy. Mind you, he wasn't like 6 months old. He was 1.5 years. But yeah.
He just wants friends.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. And he tries to run to all the dogs and play with them. And then the dogs, especially the small ones, get scared and run away.
Right.
And he starts crying. Because, why are you running away from me? That's exactly the reason why he chases cats, actually, because they won't stay and play with him.
Play with me.
So yeah, I thought, like, if I turned into a werewolf, I'd be so good at dominating him. And that is how the entire werewolf universe started, with one main character who's never had her book yet, because others were more chatty, basically. And she goes to her friends who own a vet practice, and she was like, oh my God, my dog is sick, and I probably did something horrible to him in my sleep, because now he won't come near me and he's afraid all the time. Before that point, the dog was, a replica of Hades. And like on the next full moon she turns, like she shifts into a wolf. So yeah, that's how the whole universe started.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
That's pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, what's your most insane thing that inspired the book?
I've got one. So I had a dream. And this happened, the company I was working for was going through a really, really bad series of situations. That kind of revolved around the executive director at the time. And I had this dream that I was in this cult.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and she was the leader of the cult. The executive director was the leader of the cult.
Oh,
And
nice.
I like the first part of the dream was all about I was trying to rescue somebody from the cult and I was trying to escape. And like that was fairly normal. Like that wasn't at all terribly weird. I mean, that was what was going on in my life. So my subconscious is like, oh, this is what's going on.
Yeah, makes sense.
And trying to like process, but after like, so that's the first part of the dream. And then I finally escape with this person. We run out and down the fire escape of the building. I don't really understand how that worked, but we run down the fire escape. Right. And like we're in this apocalyptic world, which is clearly how the cult got started. Because in apocalypse, that's what happens. And we're running away, and all of a sudden we were being chased by a T-Rex.
Okay.
I have no idea where the T-Rex came from. And unfortunately, the T-Rex did not make it into the actual story. But the whole situation of an apocalyptic world and having to fight against this cult that was loosely based on the behavior of the chief executive at the time. That's how that one started. But yeah, I can remember waking up and I was like, that was a T-Rex! I need to write this down! So I have a journal somewhere where the actual layout of the dream is written down, and then it developed into a story about a girl who has to go rescue people from a cult. So.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Like, I mean, you have to do that, and there's a T-Rex. I mean, there's a T-Rex.
Well, and I'm still trying to figure out a way to get the T-Rex into the story. I don't know how, but I'm really
maybe the cult was doing some illegal experiments and cloning dinosaurs and Salt Jurassic Park and stuff.
There you go.
Yep.
There we go.
Yep. Yep, that would work. That would work right there. I totally agree with that. It's a brilliant idea. And there has to be a T-Rex. There just has to be a T-Rex. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
There needs to be the T-Rex. That's part of that whole thing is like, and there's the T-Rex.
Yeah, there's like
everybody, like anybody could write a story about a cult, but a T-Rex chasing you as you're escaping from the cult?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's maybe the T-Rex is like their guard dog and like keeping from like
his name should be Spot.
Escaping. Like that's the whole point of the T-Rex. It's not just a random T-Rex. It's actually their like.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking the T-Rex is like, I mean, maybe he shifts and he's a T-Rex shifter and he's the love interest.
Like post-apocalyptic powers or something. There you go.
Right?
There we go. We have each of our different genres in this story already.
Hey, this is what brainstorming is all about.
Yeah, we just created the main character who's a shifter T-Rex.
In a post-apocalyptic world with a cult.
Yeah. That somehow turned into a paranormal romance. So
gotta cover all the bases.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yep, you have to cover all your bases and yeah. We are not insane people. I promise we're not. I mean, we are, but in a good way.
I mean, I am.
But it's an okay kind of insanity.
Yeah. It's the good kind of
Acceptable
insanity. Yep.
The good kind.
Mm.
The writerly kind. It's,
Yes.
you know,
Really kind. There we go.
The
you can't
writerly,
have writer without kind of crazy involved.
the
Just-
writerly kind when you don't go looking through the search history. You do not ask about what characters are doing when you're not writing them,
Yep.
because you'll get a detailed story, and sometimes it's dirty.
Sometimes you just don't want to know.
Yeah, sometimes you're better off not knowing.
Yeah.
Like,
That's true.
definitely no, don't ask, and really stay away from the search engines. Like,
Yes.
don't look at the suggestions. Don't look at the history. No.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. Because I remember when I was writing my first book, my first weird search was like, what are the symptoms of heavy blood loss? Because
I mean, that's normal.
you know,
Yeah. No, that's a good thing to know, I think.
yeah. I
Handy
mean,
to have knowledge.
like, my protagonist had just offered a lot of blood to a vampire, so
I feel like I look that up a lot more than I should.
Yeah.
Like every so often, it's like,
I mean,
I wonder if this information's
probably
still the same.
So I
Right,
probably
right.
should have looked that up the other day, actually, because I cut myself again. That's something that happens to me often, and it was my finger, and there's lots of nerve endings there, and lots of blood vessels, and so I was bleeding everywhere. And so that was probably something I should have looked up while I was just standing there, bleeding to death, kind of thing.
definitely that would be a good
So-
thing. Like, I mean, you should know that already because you're a writer. How can you? How no? Sky.
I probably have looked it up in the past. Honestly, that's what the sad part is.
I'm pretty sure you have.
Lightheaded and not thinking clearly from the loss of blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus. I love that. I really do. Oh my freaking God.
Oh my goodness.
This is fun when we get into the whole madness of it. It turns pretty wild and I love it.
I think it's important to share your madness because, first of all, knowing that other people feel the same way and do the same things makes
Yeah.
you feel just maybe not less crazy, but less alone in your crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Because I'm
true.
definitely crazy. So
Right?
it's good to find people who share that craziness, especially who can kind of relate to it in their own ways.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find your tribe kind of mentality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I'm totally down with that.
That's
And
like
especially
recently,
because, oh, go ahead.
this
Sorry, go ahead.
story, this short story contest that I entered, the theme was best bad choice. And
Oh,
nice.
I was inspired by this. Somehow, my boyfriend and I got on to watching conspiracy theories about the Titanic.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
At one point, we found it's by this game company. I can't remember the name of the publishers, but they're called Titanic Honor and Glory, and they're making a video game about the Titanic. And they have this real-time simulation of the Titanic in the Unreal Engine. And I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, I need to write a story about the Titanic sinking.
Oh, they have a simulation of that in VR, actually.
Yeah, it's probably the one that I'm thinking of. It went this video went viral, I think, last year or something. I just found it. But
No, I think it's something new for VR that they've developed now. Because my boyfriend was telling me about it. He was like, "Do you want to go hang out on the Titanic?"
yeah, I think that they're making. That's the video game they're making is for VR.
Oh,
You're
that's
supposed to be able to walk around
so
on the
cool.
Titanic.
Yeah, and I
and stuff.
think they released some footage, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah, so it's
freaking awesome.
I love when people do stuff like that. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I think I've watched the real-time sinking of Titanic 4 times. I become slightly obsessed.
Yeah, just slightly.
Oh my god, just a little bit. But it's like I got this idea, the best bad choice of what if you were a vampire stuck on the Titanic?
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh God.
that would be the worst situation possible, right?
Well, it
Right.
depends on the type of vampire you are.
My vampires die in the sun, so they'd be,
Yeah, well, because
and they stink.
because
Like
the thing is,
stones.
yeah, that sucks. In the case of my vampires, because I kind of there are two types of vampires in my world. There are the trueborn and the baseborn, and the trueborn are from a different universe, like a different realm, and they came to Earth, and this is like the only world where they experience bloodlust and all that, paired with the superhuman abilities. And then they turn some locals into vampires, and those are the baseborn. And the thing is that at first, for the first few instances, like the first generation, the second generation, the third generation, because human vampires wanted their own vampires turned and whatever. For the first generations, it was okay. The bloodline wasn't that diluted. But then from the fourth generation on, they started developing sensitivity to sun. They needed more blood, stuff like that.
Okay.
So it kind of depends.
Yeah. How your vampires are. That makes sense.
Yeah, and they're not undead. I mean, they're not undead. It's just there's something like it's a sort of mutation.
Yeah. Mine are kind of like they've got a curse. So it's all like the second the sun rises, like, yeah, good luck. Your body kind of locks up, and then you're just kind of gonna die.
Yeah.
And you have no say in the matter. And they're super heavy. So in the case that you're in the sea, if you don't know how to swim, which that particular vampire doesn't, then you just sink like a stone. You're done.
Yeah.
Enjoy the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, and where the Titanic sinks, you don't want to go that far down. That's not fun.
I mean, it would be dark there, so it depends. I mean, they don't need to breathe, right?
No, but the pressure would crush them at the bottom.
Oh, so they're not resistant to that.
Well, not that far down. Not where the Titanic is.
Oh, okay.
That's like you die in like milliseconds kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if there's no superhuman ability to resist pressure.
Not those levels, no. There is a certain point they'd probably be able to withstand it, but not far enough down that it would matter, I don't think.
Yeah. Because they were
that actually reminds me of something I looked up recently. Because I was watching a video on YouTube about the things in the ocean that we have and haven't discovered, and one of the things I was looking up based on that was at what different depths of the sea that people have explored and can survive, and it shows, and where the Titanic is, we've never been down there humanly. We've sent video cameras and robots, but we have never actually dived that deep because it's just too far down and we would die.
Yeah, like even the machines I think that they send down, they're built to withstand so much pressure, and even they get like caved in and stuff, and they get beat up all types of mess. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure at some point there will be some sort of a suit that will withstand that.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
that's a cool idea.
How long will it take to come up with that?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with the Titanic, especially, is like it's gonna be gone eventually. Things are eating it, and there's sand dunes that are starting to swallow it and stuff. So it's like, that maybe they'll figure out the technology before that, but it's pretty unlikely by the sounds of it. And at this point, they've done like scans with ultrasonic vibrations and stuff. So they know most of what's there, sort of. They've done analysis and stuff on it. I don't know. Like I said, I've gotten super obsessed with it lately.
But it's super cool. Like when you get obsessed with something that's like super, super nice, because you think of things and then you get ideas for new stories, and
Yeah, it's so much fun just kind of finding a new rabbit hole to kind of go down.
Yes.
Especially with the Titanic,
Yeah.
there was like a shift in technology, so they've got all this new information. So there's tons of documentaries to watch, which is nice.
Like, I mean, look, think of all the blogging and social media and YouTube rabbit holes we fall down.
Oh yeah.
I turned that in a series of books. It's called Famous on the Internet. I'm on book 3, which will be released soon. So the first one had the blogger in it. The second one had the travel blogger. And the third one has a YouTuber and Twitch streamer, by the way. It's all about gaming. So, yeah. The next ones will be about makeup and musicians on YouTube. So yeah, for the musician one, I have this idea for a sort of a YouTube bachelor.
Bachelor, like the Bachelor with the rose kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Oh, that's kind of cool. Actually, I like this
awesome.
idea.
That's inspired by a YouTube musician I watch. It's the guy from 10 Second Songs, if you know him.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do. Yes.
He also is the lead singer of a band that's called Set the Charge. I really love their music, but I love the 10 Second Songs, the idea behind it. And he does like one song in 20 different styles. So he'd take like Dark Horse and sing it in 20 different styles, like Queen or
I love
hard rock
videos.
bands. And yeah,
so awesome.
He's absolutely amazing. And he was talking about how he's got no time to date and stuff because he works all the time. And I was thinking, I could get a musician as a protagonist. And then some producers decide to offer him this spot on a show where they try to find a girlfriend for him. And in the middle of that show, he discovers he's actually kind of gay and completely in love with the producer of the show.
Aww.
No, that sounds like a great story.
It will be written in the series. It will just be later on. I even have the photo of the singing dude for the cover. It's all good. So the thing is that I really love that idea. And then another idea popped up, and I know I'll have that guy. I'll have a makeup guy and someone who's either into cooking or fitness, something like that. I'm not sure yet.
Well, you never know. You just got to keep living life, and inspiration will strike you, right?
I keep going down rabbit holes on YouTube, apparently.
Yep.
I ended up in several rabbit holes as I was doing research for this Baba Yaga story.
Yep.
I bet.
I said it on I said it in 1918.
Okay.
And nobody it never occurred to me how much shit happens in a single year. And 1918 is one of those years that World War I is coming to an end. The Spanish flu is a huge pandemic. It's killing millions of people.
Tons of people.
And then everything that happened. I'm sorry. My cat decided she didn't want to sit anymore. But you can't get down that way.
Oh my god.
Here. You have to go over the side, and there's a pile of books right there, and if she tries, it's going to be ugly.
Obviously.
But yeah, I ended up watching 6 or 7 YouTube documentaries about the Spanish flu, and then what happened to orphans, because the Spanish flu killed people who were
middle-aged, sort of, right?
Yeah, in their prime. So there were a lot of orphans because the children survived, but the parents did not. And so what happens to those children? How do they, because there's not really, in 1918, there weren't really, there wasn't a child welfare.
Yeah, there weren't systems in place the same way.
Yeah, and really the only systems were through the church or through missions and stuff. So what happens, how does that work? And so I spent a lot of time watching videos and reading articles about these different children and things that happen. But yeah, I ended up on a website. it was a newspaper website. It was back issues of newspapers from I think from Portland, Oregon. And so I spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours reading through back issues of Portland newspapers.
Oh my God! If that's not a rabbit hole, then I don't know what is.
I know, right? It's crazy. It was very interesting, and it had and it was everything from. It wasn't all about like the 1918 plague, but it was things like marriage announcements and birth announcements, and like a park got dedicated, and like it was a weird place.
That's a rabbit hole. I like that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But I love rabbit holes. They're like the best. Like honestly, they're the best thing that can happen to you.
Well,
Or the worst. Or the worst.
Great for ideas, right?
Right.
I was gonna say it depends on how you look at them, because some of the rabbit holes you learn some of the coolest things, and then others you feel like you wasted so much time doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, like to be fair, all the makeup videos I've watched on YouTube helped with my book that I write in the future, and also with all the tags I'm doing, because
Right.
you know.
There you go.
I need to watch like 3 or 4 makeup videos a day and go like, I will never wear that much makeup and I will never be able to do that. And wow, you're really good. I'll never be that good. But you know, it improved my makeup games slightly.
That's not bad.
Slightly. Very slightly.
There you go. I say that's actually how I learned to put on makeup, was through YouTube tutorials. So
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean some of the things I was doing on my own, but I did learn a lot of techniques and stuff from YouTube, obviously. And it sometimes helps to just watch like the beauty gurus and then smaller channels that do a lot of everyday looks and like more natural looks and stuff like that, and who are really honest, because there was this woman doing a video on how to apply concealer when you're 30 plus, and maybe don't put a lot of it, and maybe don't try to bake your under eye, because that will look like absolute shit. So yeah, that's amazing. But I find that it's not those videos that like drive me down push me down the rabbit hole. It's actually more educational videos that do that, because I'm subscribed to Shadiversity, for example, who talks about realistic weapons for fantasy characters, like what kind of weapon would dwarves use, or what kind of weapons would be great for centaurs, because maybe it's not what you thought, and what kind of weapons would kill a certain creature. And then he goes into video games and books and movies and analyzes their medieval castles and tells if they're accurate or not.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are a lot of HEMA channels that speak about swordplay and when it's realistic and when it's not, and how not to make it completely unrealistic, which is probably one of the reasons why Storm from Sky and Storm no longer has a dual wield. Like he no longer has 2 huge swords. He just has one. It's fine. And there was this scene where he just crosses his swords and pulls them and cuts a guy's head, and I was like, that's okay. That might be a bit flourished.
That's exactly where my mind went as soon as you said he crossed the swords. I'm like, someone's getting his head taken off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like just
off with his head.
I mean, the guy still gets his head chopped off, but it's just happened with one huge 2-handed sword.
One.
Yeah.
The only time that works is in Star Wars with lightsabers.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets his. It's not his entire head, but I mean, enough to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, basically,
He
it's
dies
enough to kill him.
eventually, is what you're saying.
I know he dies on the spot.
Oh, okay.
Like
So it's not
massive,
Nasty then.
massive blood loss, and if you just pull the hair, it will just break your spine and you're dead.
All right.
So yeah, but yeah, I dropped the dual wield and the whole idea of him just pulling both swords, because pulling from the back is an impossibility, people. I've learned that after watching a lot of videos. So yeah, I no longer do that. Not that I did it much. I mean, I didn't do it much for reasons, but yeah.
Does that hurt?
I think it's something nice to try and keep the stories as down to earth as you can in an alternate reality,
Yeah.
because it makes them more relatable. But yeah, some rabbit holes are great.
Yeah. Oh, I love rabbit holes about learning stuff.
Yeah, I love,
Unless you're not getting stuff done.
I love the medieval stuff, and I love the Isaac Arthur videos, because he speaks about science and sci-fi things and how they work scientifically. And he's got these super long videos. Like, I think the shortest I've seen is half an hour. And they're really long series about habitable worlds and colonizing space and life on a spaceship and things like that.
That sounds like an awesome channel.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, he's a scientist, and he's absolutely amazing. I actually have tasks in Habitica with some playlists that I need to go through. And I'm trying to, stay on top of that. I fail most times, but I'm trying really hard, because they're long, man. Some of them are 1 hour long. But the guy is absolutely amazing. So yeah. It's called research, people. Sue me.
Hey, you can never have enough research when it comes to making realistic worlds that you're playing in.
I can provide. Sorry, I was just answering to the comments. I will provide links to them in the comments right now. Sorry. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Entertain yourselves, plebs.
Are you not entertained?
What have I done? What have I done?
I do have to say, talking about rabbit holes, I'm trying to think of how this one started. I ended up traveling down a rabbit hole of Harry Potter theories.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know how it started. My sisters and I were talking about the new Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Okay.
And one of my sisters asked a question. I was like, oh, I just saw this in a video. And so I went to go look for it. And I was like, I'll find it and I'll send you guys the link. And I found it and I sent the link, but then I ended up watching the video again. And somehow I ended up not in Harry Potter. Like, I watched all the Harry Potter videos and then just kept clicking. Like, I just had autoplay on, so it was just playing. I ended up on a video about how King Candy became the lead character on Candy Crush in the movie Wreck-It Ralph. I have no idea how I got there. No idea. But
that's such a random, like... What?
I know. But I started in Harry Potter.
That's not even a video game.
No.
That's so strange.
I don't know. I don't know how I got there, but yeah.
Aren't those the best rabbit holes to be down, though? The ones where you're like, you have no idea how you got to that point where you're at, and you're just like, how is this even related to what I was trying to look up?
Yeah. No. You're like,
I'll watch YouTube is so great for that, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
just throw stuff at you. Like, hey, that's not necessarily related, but here you go.
You
Yeah,
may want to
whatever.
watch this one. Yeah.
If you like this, maybe you'll like this.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the bane of my existence on YouTube, on Amazon, and on Audible.
Yep.
Amazon is
Netflix.
the rabbit hole I usually fall down.
So I have to
Anything
tell
I can
you-
watch documentaries on, and I'm done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that; it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
products. Like, I'll start looking up a certain type of product. I'll put in a keyword, and this is something my whole family does. We seem to make this a habit where we type in a keyword of something we're kind of interested in, and then we'll just randomly click the also bots, and it will turn into something else entirely by the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that
People
usually
also
happens.
Just like you
bot
don't have an way to go started.
random crap thing that I've never heard of. Well, that's interesting. I think I'll have to go look it up.
Yep.
I definitely needed this. I didn't know 5 minutes ago, but I do now.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty much. That's how it happens.
Every time.
The
Yep.
internet is a magical place.
Yep.
Ah.
Oh, so true. What would we do without it, though?
We wouldn't be friends, first off.
I know, which would be
I know.
super sad.
I would
Yeah.
be so upset.
Yep.
Mhm.
I mean,
Writing in my corner.
yeah, no, I don't think, I mean, without the internet and relating with, I mean, keeping in touch with so many people and discovering so many things, I don't think I'd ever made the switch to writing in English. And if I hadn't made that switch and couldn't publish straight in English, I would have never been a full-time author. I could have never made enough money on books in Romania, self-published or traditionally published. It wouldn't have mattered. Because the market is so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine a Romanian text would it be just like, man, that would be such a hard marketplace to sell your stuff into.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure writing what I write.
Yeah.
I'd be on the shit list of some extreme Christian groups that are very loud here and very vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they randomly and very often interrupt movie showings of LGBT movies in Bucharest, which is the capital. I mean, the epitome of advancement. So yeah, that happens. That still happens. It's how I started actually volunteering for the NGO that fights for equal rights for LGBTQ people years ago, and it's still going on. I mean, we've made progress. We've made progress. You have to remember the year where we stopped considering homosexuality a crime was 1990. It was pretty late.
Oh, yeah.
So
Gotcha.
that with being a Christian Orthodox country, kind of in the area of influence of both Greece and Russia,
Okay.
it's not the easiest combo, and the church is still pretty freaking strong here. I mean, they're in parliament and everything.
Mhm.
They have their seat in parliament and they're super strong. So, but we went from there being incidents on every gay parade, and I think the first one was in the early 2000s, like mid 2000s. So it took a while for that to happen. And we moved from the NGO itself being kind of hush-hush and you needing a connection to get in, to now them being quite open. They have a website, they have their address on their website, and it's perfectly fine. So
Yeah.
we've certainly made progress, but there's still a lot of things.
And I think like all civil rights change, it takes time, because you can't, it's not enough to change laws, it's not enough to change like the outer structure, you have to change people's hearts.
Yeah.
Well, and that
I mean,
takes
and it's
time and generations.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even here in the States, I mean, in my lifetime, huge amounts of change have been made. But it's still, I mean, and not just in LGBTQ rights, but in race issues and those kinds of things. I mean, we think about the civil rights work of the 1960s did huge amounts of moving forward, but we are still, I mean, look at the conversations that have been going on for the last 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
the things that are happening, it's a process, and I think that in that process we absolutely have to be aware of two things. You have to be aware that how far you've come and celebrate that, but you also have to be aware of how far you have to go and continue to keep that that focus in order to make those changes that you want to see.
Yeah, and I think there's an issue with that because there are very, very loud minorities on both extremes. And the majority who are like the level-headed people are kind of like drowned into this madness that comes from the extremes.
Yeah.
And it gets really judgmental from a point on. Which
tough situation.
It is a tough situation. I agree with that, but I think I think not a lot would happen with a lot of guilt tripping and blame throwing.
Yeah. That doesn't help anybody.
And
that doesn't fix the problems.
Yeah,
it just
and that
kind of makes everyone angry.
Yeah, and that helps a lot. I mean, that doesn't help a lot. That's what I wanted to say. I mean, I've had this conversation a lot in my circle of friends where it's never enough what you do, and that can get really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, when I get lectured on how I should act and how I should be an ally, I kind of get sort of iffy about it because I'm like, I've been working on this since I was 14.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no support from no one else. I just did it because my friend needed me, because our colleagues were mean to her. So it's kind of off-putting,
right?
It's kind of off-putting, and it's even funnier when I hear it from people who enjoy certain privileges that apparently they're not aware of. Like, I mean, dude, being an ally in your country and being an ally in my country is kind of a different ball game.
Oh yeah,
and it was
those are leagues different.
It was a very different ball game, like 20 years ago, or wait, no, 22 years ago when I started doing it. Like, I mean, what are you even talking about? But you know, I try to just ignore the conversations and just do my best, and not take offense, because I mean, offense most times is taken, not given. So if I can just let it slide and just do my best, I think it's all good.
Yeah, and I think you've got to kind of do that for most things on the internet. Kind of build that thick skin and remember that it's just a person on the other end of a screen who knows next to nothing but your name, and if they know your name, if they care.
And the rest of it is just assumptions they make based on very limited information, because no matter how much information you put out there, the reality is most people don't have access to all of that or the patience to go through all of it. So
and most of the time when they're telling you that kind of crap, they don't care anyways. They just want to make you feel bad. So,
and that's what
they want to be listened to. That's what most people want. They just want to be heard. And I think in general, people don't feel like they're being heard, and that's probably why there's such nasty people on the internet these days. So,
they think they have to shout louder and louder and louder in order to be heard. I also think
record, everyone hears you, social justice warriors. It's just not the right approach to the situation.
Not always. Like, I mean, if you have a group of people who are willing to help you, maybe don't guilt them and make them feel less than because they apparently don't do enough. Like, I don't see how that's helpful. And
It's
I've been
not.
I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, I had to talk to a family friend. She's kind of like a second mother to me because her son and I, we grew up together because they live next door. And I had to tell her, we were talking about the case of a gay kid who's in college, and she kind of encouraged him a few times to tell his mother about it. His mother coming from a rural area, and they said, don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell him to say anything because right now he depends on his parents. Let him finish college, get a job, and then he can tell whatever he wants to whoever he wants.
Yeah.
Well, and don't pressure people to do things. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's doing their own thing and doing what they think is best, right?
She was coming from a great place because she said something like, if my son were gay, I wouldn't care. I'd still love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, he's not, but if he were, it wouldn't be a problem. And I said, yeah, but you're you. And most people don't think like that, especially in rural areas. Like, that's not going to happen. And yeah, I mean, it saddened me to say that, but yeah, no, not all parents will accept their kids no matter what. So maybe let him get to a place where he's stable and safe, and then he can share the thing with the world. And the reason why we were having that conversation, because of course someone thought it was a good idea to call the guy's mom and say stuff about his sexual preferences.
Of course.
That's not cool.
No, it's not.
Let people do their own thing. They usually know what's best for themselves.
I mean, no extreme is good. Really, no extreme is good. And I mean, the thing is, like, we're authors and we're supposed to take a stand on this. And I stray away from that as much as I can because nobody will like my stance. Because in some cases, I just can't agree with people. I mean, if you think anarcho-communists are a great idea, you're freaking insane.
Yeah.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with having, like, you don't have to agree with everyone at the end of the day. You're allowed to have your opinions. It's just, it's not good to force is the key word there. It's not good to force your opinions on other people. And that's where a lot of the tension comes from, is people saying, well, you have to think this way. It's like, well, I can kind of see, I can have a discussion with you. We can try and talk on equal terms. And at the end of the day, I can still choose to say, well, that's fine, but I don't believe that.
Yeah, and I think go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I also think that there has to be a certain amount of respect for the person you're talking about. And recognizing that you can give them advice. You can absolutely give them advice. They are under no obligation to take it. And I think sometimes and I find myself doing this, I'll be really honest. I give my friend really good advice about how to do something or what to do, and they don't take my advice. And it can be really difficult not to take that personally. Like, you didn't take my advice is so good, and it could have been so much better, and you chose not to take it. What?
Yeah.
And almost feel like that's a slap in your face. Like, I gave you my advice and you didn't take it. But it's
almost like, in the case of slapping in the face, it's almost like, why did you ask for the advice if you weren't going to take it, kind of thing.
Right. But sometimes, and I think that, and this is one of the things I have to really struggle with, is just because somebody asks for my advice doesn't mean they're going to take it. They're asking for my advice because they value my advice. It goes into their brain and they balance it with the other things that are going on there. And I'm not privy to what's going on there. So I can't be like, well, in my head, it sounds really good, but in your head, that might not be the greatest option.
Yeah, for me, it's like, when that happens, I feel sad because I can see them struggling, and because they didn't take my advice, which I thought was brilliant, they're still struggling. The moment I get pissed off is when they come to me with the same problem over and over and over again, and I say the same thing several times. And I get snarkier and more sarcastic every time, and I get to the point where I'm not passive aggressive. I'm overtly aggressive. I'm just like in your face, sarcastic, and making fun of you from a point on. And it still doesn't drive the point home. And I'm like, why am I even bothering? Like, dude, seriously, why am I bothering? And my boyfriend would look at me and say, I told you not to. And I'm like, yeah, but I care. And he goes, then serves you right.
Sometimes you gotta kind of think of yourself, though. You gotta remember when to take a step back. And
yeah, the thing is, like,
I'm a waste of energy.
I'm really protective of people around me, and I want them all to be happy, and you know.
Yep.
So I can't just let it go and not care. I can't. So yeah, that's fine.
I actually just ended a friendship with someone I've been friends with for 5 or 6 years, because that's exactly what our friendship had turned into. We don't live near each other, so our only contact was through text messaging and IMs and all that fun jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed that every time he was contacting me, all he was doing was asking for the same advice, and I would give him the same answer. And it just got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is literally all you want me for, is to give you the same exact advice that you're not listening to. And I was like, and it's causing me anxiety, because I know in his particular case, I do know everything that was going on in his head. I do know almost everything that was involved in the situation. And he was just doing the opposite every single time and expecting different results. And I'm like, it's not going to happen, and I can't do this. So I ended our friendship, and it got ugly for a few months. And even now, he still tries contacting me, and I'm like, I just can't deal with you, because I know exactly what's going to turn into. Go away.
Yeah, no, I think it took me a long time to learn that some bridges are better off burned.
Yeah.
And you just burn the bridges and keep going and don't look back, like, ever.
Yeah. This was one particular bridge that I have not. I felt guilty for like 2 days after ending the friendship, but honestly, since then, I haven't felt any guilt. In fact, actually, I've been a lot better off. I didn't feel like I had to worry about that person anymore, because it was just not my problem anymore.
Yeah, I did it rarely. Like, I really did it rarely, but when I did it, it was usually for important reasons. And when some time passed, it turned out like the person really truly deserved it. It was to the point where about a year after that, they stole some of my content from my website, like copy pasted it.
Yeah.
So I was pretty pissed off, and the only reason I noticed was that I saw their new business venture and wanted to support them, and went to check their Facebook page and like it, and visit the website. And then when I get to the website, it's my content.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's
People
hard.
can be scummy.
Yep.
You gotta remember that people are people, and that's not uncommon, and that it's not, at the end of the day, it's a lot of the times not really super personal. They're just only thinking of themselves.
Yeah. That
and at that point, you got to think of yourself too. And like Alina said,
okay
burn that bridge and move the fuck on.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lesson for life. And the thing is, like, I always try not to be selfish. I think it's because of how I grew up. I was a single child, like lonely, and no brothers, no siblings, no whatever. And there's this idea that if you're an only child, you're going to be a lot more selfish than those who have brothers and sisters.
I can kind of see the reasoning behind that.
But I was so aware of that, and I so didn't want to be selfish that I got a bit on the extreme, and I was always the one doing more for people than they would be willing to do for me. And my mom always scolded me for this, like saying something like, it's fine doing nice things for people, but when you need them, if they don't do the same thing for you, maybe you should just tone it down. And it took me a long time to learn that particular lesson. It really did. Maybe because I was super aware of how selfish I could be. I don't know.
Well, once you're aware of something, it makes it easier to kind of control, yeah, or like manage.
Yeah, but the point is that
Or
being a
learn
bit
from it, I guess.
selfish is healthy, because no one will ever love you more than you love yourself. They won't prioritize you more than you prioritize yourself. And if you can't do those nice things for yourself, you can't require other people to do them.
Yep.
It's all about balance, right?
Yeah.
That could be said for a lot of things in life, but I think especially when it comes to that, it's good to think of yourself, but it's also good to think of the people that you come across in your life too.
Yeah. And this turned into life lessons with 4 crazy authors, because the chat is completely right. Our conversations are their own rabbit holes.
But this is a good rabbit hole, you know.
Yes,
It is a good rabbit hole.
It's a perfect rabbit hole. Also, I would like to point out that we're almost at the 2-hour mark in our conversation. And I did not realize that. It took me, I did a double take to realize that. So I thought, we've been talking for an hour, right? No!
Yeah, it's 2 hours now.
So before we wrap this up, people, we need to promote our stuff. So as always, I will ask each of you to promote your stuff. And if you don't do it right, I'm going to step in. And I apologize for that. If it's annoying, I double apologize for that. But I'm doing it out of kindness and love. So please forgive me. So CJ, go right ahead.
Well, like Alina said at the beginning of the live stream, I do have a YouTube channel, which is linked down below. I don't have any recent videos because I've been focusing so much on this short story, but feel free to go watch the old one. And
can I have a suggestion for you?
Yeah.
Because you're working so much on that, maybe you should do a manuscript Monday and talk about your Baba Yaga story.
There you go.
Ooh,
there you go.
Good.
Because that's just you filming yourself, not a lot of editing, and just talking about your story, which is, I'm sure, is amazing, and we'd all like to know more about it. So
yeah.
I will consider doing that.
Thank you. I'm so happy now.
She'll consider taking that advice.
No, the thing is that I have people, we all subscribe to a lot of people on YouTube, but some I enjoy watching. And when they're not posting enough content, I try to nag them, and I'm sorry. I'll probably do a lot of that tomorrow to Claire. So I'm awful, I know. And for those of you who want to follow CJ, her channel and everyone else's is always linked down below in these chats. So there you go. It's easy. Any social media you're on, CJ, where people should follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter, on Facebook. I think that's about all I do right now.
It's all good. It's a decent presence. It's a decent presence. I approve. Okay, Sky.
And Tumblr.
Oh, and Tumblr. See?
So I am Sky, obviously, and all my YouTube links are listed below, and I don't have anything to promote either because, kind of like CJ, I haven't been doing videos lately except for like posting older videos that I finally got around to editing. However, that being said, I will be participating in Veta, filming every day, video every day in April. I think that's what it's called.
Vlog every day April.
Vlog every day April. We'll see how that goes because I have never done that before, and I think what I'm going to try doing just to make sure I can do it is just filming and posting instead of doing any kind of real editing. Just film, post kind of thing. Well, what you see is what you get.
If you stick to a vlogging format,
apparently I have
work. Yep, you have a cute puppy.
I have a kid puppy.
Okay, Trinda, go right ahead.
Well, I have, what do I got coming up? I'm working on a short story. I haven't been shooting a lot of videos because I was moving and that took literally forever. So I will have some videos up soon if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel with the links wherever they're going to go.
Down below.
Somewhere.
Always down below.
I am going to be running a giveaway for Revival Debriefed, which is the entire Revival series up to episode 4, which is all that's out right now. So
is this available as a bundle?
It'll be on my page and it'll probably appear in a bundle as well. I'm waiting for my Twitter to hit 500 followers and it's currently sitting at 494. So the sooner I hit 500, the sooner I can do my giveaway. I'm going to set it up this afternoon and then it's just a hit of the button. So if you haven't checked out my Twitter, that's a good place to go check out.
That's awesome.
I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. InstaFreebie is a good place to follow because I do tons of giveaways over there. And my mailing list, I guess. Giveaways. I don't know. That's about it, though. That's coming up.
I'm waiting for that bundle because apparently I love bundles. I bought 2 from Claire. I want one from you too. Like,
it's coming.
What the hell?
I'm super excited for this one, so keep an eye out for it.
And I have stuff to promote too. If you haven't noticed, it's the it's the Author Cube Readathon, people. It just kicked off. The Instagram challenges are happening 1 a day. There are 7 reading challenges, and I hope you'll join. I can't wait to see your posts on Instagram and here on YouTube if you do any wrap-ups or vlogs or anything like that. Thank you to everyone who joined in any form. Thank you to all the other tubers who supported this. And tomorrow I'll have my new Descent into Madness stream with Claire. Claire and I do this every month, once a month. We take turns in hosting it. This month is on my channel. And we're going to be talking about our crazy endeavors of publishing 20 books this year. Oh, and writing them. That
should be exciting.
That's a thing, yeah. Yeah, especially since both of us kind of did admin stuff this month, so should be interesting. And another thing, tomorrow or early next week, I will have a cover reveal and the pre-order link release for Famous on the Internet Book 3. That's titled Gaming and IRL Boss Fights. It features a famous travel, Jesus, no, it doesn't, never mind. That's Travel and Spice. It features the famous YouTuber and Twitch streamer who's all into games and stuff. So should be fun. And yeah, keep an eye on this channel. And if you're not subscribed to my mailing list, I can't talk anymore. If you're not subscribed to my mailing list, you should right now. The link is always in the description down below. If you sign up, you'll get a free copy of my gay military romance, Mission Protect the X, and you'll be among the first people ever to find out when the book goes live. So yeah, you should definitely join.
Breathe, Alina.
That was difficult.
Marketing.
That was difficult. I mean, the more tired I get, the harder words become. It's
words are hard.
What are words? What are words?
They're boulders. They're boulders I have to carry on my shoulders. I think that kind of rhymes.
Boulders on my shoulders.
Yeah.
There you go.
I suck at poetry, so. Good one, Sky. I love that one. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who's been in the comments with us. And if you're watching this in the replay, leave some comments down below. We'd love to interact with you. If you have questions, comments, complaints about us always straying from the announced topic, we're totally willing to hear you out. We'll probably keep doing it. It's a work in progress, people. It's a work in progress. And in the end, have a lovely weekend from all of us here. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.